Well, hey there, hi there, ho there. It's me, your lovely Mrs. Edith, ready to get started on a new book. Promised you all was going to start on Monday, and here we are on Monday. Okay, first of all, get a blanket, get something to drink. We always do dilly dillies. There's my dilly dilly for the day. Dilly dilly. So I'll wait for you. Go get something to drink or put me on pause. That's okay too. Go get something to drink, get a blanket, get a pillow, get cozy. You're also going to need your folder that I gave you on Friday. You're going to put some notes in there, draw a little bit as I'm reading to you. It'd be weird for you just to watch me read this book. You know what I mean? A little weird. Hey, by the way, while we're waiting, a little Willy Wonka going on today. What do you think? Because I got the golden ticket. I love that movie. Hope you guys enjoyed it. You'll see behind me, got my little furry burry friends over there. Okay, enough of me. This is my wonderful bedroom, which is kind of creepy in itself, but I had to go someplace quiet so I could read this book for you. So the book, everybody back? Do I see you all? Okay. The book is called Flush. Now this is going to be backwards, I know, but this is the cover of the book. You'll notice, what does it look like to you? Yes. You're all going, oh my gosh, yes. That's why I said it was kind of a poupée book. It's a toilet seat. It is totally a toilet seat. And you'll see this lovely little guy in the middle, my little fish man. What happens when you flush sewage into an ocean? Look at the lovely color of the fish. Turn green. Yeah. So the fish are not doing very well when somebody decides to flush their sewage, or poupée, as we like to call it, into the ocean. Okay, so let's get started. This is by Carl Hyacin. He's written a lot of great books, and honestly, this book is my favorite of the whole year because it is very comical. It makes you laugh a lot, and I'll be doing different voices along the way. You know how I am. And I hope this volume is up for you so you can hear me. There, I just turned it up, so don't adjust your sets. It's just me getting louder for you. Okay, we will have quickie quizzes, but the difference is you don't have a book, so you're going to have to pay attention, okay? All right, this is chapter 1. So get cozy. Let's have a little sip before we start. A little dilly dilly to the remote learning, and hopefully this is the last week of it all, right? Dilly dilly, may we get back to school. I know, different without my mask on, huh? I feel weird knowing you can see everything of me. Okay, chapter 1. Let's get started. The deputy told me to empty my pockets, 2 quarters, a penny, a stick of bubble gum, and a roll of grip tape for my skateboard. It was pitiful. Go on inside. He's waiting for you, the deputy said. My dad was sitting alone at a bare metal table. He looked pretty good, all things considered. He wasn't even handcuffed. Happy Father's Day, I said. He stood up and gave me a hug. Thanks, Noah, he said. In the room there was another deputy, a broad, jowly bear standing next to the door that led to the jail cells. I guess his job was to make sure I wasn't smuggling a hacksaw to my father so that he could break out. It's good they let you keep your own clothes, I said to Dad. I figured they make you put on one of those dorky uniforms. I'm sure they will sooner or later, he shrugged. You doing okay? How come you won't let Mom bail you out? I asked. Because it's important for me to be here right now. Important how? She says you'll lose your job if you stay locked up. She's probably right, my dad admitted. He's been driving a taxi for the past year and a half. Before that, he was a fishing guide, a good one too, until the Coast Guard took away his captain's license. He said, Noah, it's not like I robbed a bank or something. I know, Dad. Did you see what I did? Not yet, I said. He gave me a wink. It's impressive. Yeah, I bet. He was in a surprisingly good mood. I'd never been to a jail before, though honestly, it wasn't much of a jail. 2 holding cells, my dad told me. The main country lockup was miles away in Key West. Oh, Key West, so where are we at? Do I hear it? Scream it, shout it, Florida. Yes, indeed, we're in Florida. That's the setting. Mom wants to know if she should call the lawyer, I said. I suppose. The same one from last time? She wasn't sure. Yeah, he's all right, my father said. Ooh, last time. Must be he's been in trouble before. His clothes were rumpled and he looked tired, but he said the food was decent and the police were treating him fine. Dad, what if you just were sorry and offered to pay for what you did? But I'm not sorry for what I did, Noah. The only thing I'm sorry about is that you've got to see me locked up like this as an axe-murderer. The other times my dad has gotten in trouble, they wouldn't let me come to the jail because I was too young. I'm not a common criminal. Dad reached across and put a hand on my arm. I know right from wrong, good from bad. Sometimes I just get carried away. Nobody thinks you're a criminal. Dusty Muleman does. That's because you sunk his boat, I pointed out. If you just paid to get it fixed, maybe that's a 73-footer, my dad cut in. You've got to know what you're doing to sink one of those pigs. You ought to go have a look. Maybe later, I said. The deputy standing by the door made a grunting noise and held up 5 chubby fingers, which was the number of minutes left before he took my father back to the cell. Is your mom still ticked off at me? Dad asked. What do you think? I tried to explain it to her, but she wouldn't listen. Then maybe you can explain it to me, I said. I'm old enough to understand. Dad smiled. I believe you are, Noah. Okay, and this is where we have a break. You'll see in the book there's a little break, and you know what that means. A new setting, a new place, and you know what else? Drink them if you got them. Let's have a sip. Woohoo! I hope you're getting hooked so far because he sunk a boat? Really? Wow. My father was born and raised here in Florida, so he grew up on the water. His dad, my grandpa Bobby, ran a charter boat out of Hulliver Marina on Miami Beach. Grandpa Bobby passed away when I was little, so I honestly didn't remember him. We heard different stories about what happened. One was that his appendix burst. Another was that he got hurt real bad in a bar fight. All we knew for sure is that he took his fishing boat down to South America on some sort of job, and he never came back. One day, a man from the U.S. State Department showed up at our house and told my parents that Grandpa Bobby was dead and buried near some little village in Colombia. For some weird reason, they couldn't bring his body home for a funeral. I knew this because I'd seen the paperwork. My dad kept a file, and at least 4 or 5 times a year, he would write to Washington, D.C., asking someone to please help get his father's coffin back to Florida. This is like 10 years later. Mom worked with my dad on the letters. She's a legal secretary, and she gets straight to the point. My mom and dad first met while they were standing in line to pay speeding tickets at the Dade County Courthouse, and they got married 6 weeks later. 6 weeks, guys. 6 weeks. Okay, the husband and I, we met, and about 6 months later we got married. But 6 weeks later? Pretty quick. You don't know anything about each other at that point. I know this for a fact because Mom put the speeding ticket in a scrapbook along with her wedding picture and stuff like that. The ticket my mother got was for driving 44 miles an hour in a 35-mile-per-hour zone. Okay, it'd be kind of like going down Weston Mills, going 44. You know, not too horrible. My father's ticket, here we go, was much worse. He was doing 93 on the turnpike. Turnpike's usually maybe about 65, 70, but 93, and it's a turnpike. It's a circular, oh my, this man. In the album, Dad's ticket looks sort of lumpy and wrinkled because he crumpled it into a ball when the state trooper handed it to him. My mother said she used a laundry iron to flatten it out before pasting it next to hers in the scrapbook. Now, let's talk for a minute. Why would Dad's ticket be all crumpled up? What does that show you? What kind of character trait is Dad so far? Dad thinks he's doing everything right. Dad wrinkled up the ticket. Now, I know you can't drive yet, but you know authority figures. You're supposed to respect them. So when the trooper, whatever it was, the policeman came and gave Dad the ticket, he took the ticket and crumpled it up and threw it. What does that show to this officer? What kind of character does Dad have? You're getting the idea. About a year after they got married, my parents moved down to the Keys. I'm sure this was Dad's idea because he'd been coming here ever since he was a kid, and he hated the big city. I was actually born in a 1989 Chevrolet Caprice on U.S. Highway 1, right in the back seat, basically. My dad racing up the 18-mile stretch from Key Largo to the mainland. If you get a chance, go look at the Keys. Type it in. and it'll show you this big long bridge. If not, I'll show you when we get back so you can see what I'm talking about. It's long. It's only like 2 cars that can go across it, though. It's a long, long bridge. He was trying to get my mother to the hospital in Homestead. She was lying in the back seat of the car, and that's where I was born. Mom did it all by herself. She didn't tell my dad to pull over and stop because she didn't want him interfering. They still argue about this. She says he's got a tendency to get overexcited, which is the understatement of the century. He didn't even realize I was born until they got to Florida City and I started bawling. So why wouldn't Mom pull over, say, oh my gosh, honey, the baby's coming? Why wouldn't she pull over? Why wouldn't she make him pull over? She didn't want him interfering. So this is the kind of guy he is. He's just a little bit, not pushy, but he just wants to take control over everything, and she knows it. Abby came along 3 years later. Abby's his sister. Got it? Dad talked to my mom into naming her after one of his favorite writers, some weird old bird who's buried out west in the middle of a desert. Most of my friends aren't crazy about their sisters, but Abby's all right. Maybe it's not cool to say so, but the truth is the truth. She's funny and tough and not nearly as irritating as most of the girls at school. Over the years, Abby and I developed a pretty good system. She keeps an eye on Mom, and I keep an eye on Dad. Sometimes, though, I need extra help. So what's the deal? Abby asked after I got back from the jail. We were sitting at the kitchen table. For lunch, Mom had fixed us the usual ham and cheese sandwiches, which I know is a lot of your favorites at school. He says he got carried away again, I said. Abby raised her eyebrow and snorted. No, duh. Mom set 2 glasses of milk on the table. Noah, why does he insist on staying in jail? It's Father's Day, for heaven's sake. I guess he's trying to make a point. All he's making, my sister said, is a jackass of himself. Not my word. It's in the book. Sorry. Hush, Abby, Mom told her. He said it's okay to call the lawyer, I added. He's not pleading guilty? Abby asked. How can he not plead guilty? He did it, didn't he? It's still smart to have an attorney, said my mother. She seemed much calmer now. When the police first called, she'd gotten real mad and said some pretty harsh things about Dad. Honestly, I couldn't blame her. Even for him, this was a major screw-up. Noah, how are you doing? She asked. I knew she was worried about the jailhouse visit. It had shaken me up, so I told her I was fine. She said, I'm sure it wasn't easy seeing your father behind bars. They brought him to a private room, I said. He wasn't even wearing handcuffs. My mother frowned. Still, it's not a happy picture. Now, why do you think the mother would frown at that? Well, let's face it. She thinks he's learning a lesson. He's in this big, huge jail. And then Noah says, oh, no, they didn't have him handcuffed. She's a little bit ticked, I'd say. She wanted him to experience the whole thing, right? She wants him to be, like, ready to come home. And he's having a great time. This is a country club place for him. Abby said, maybe he ought to plead insanity. Mom ignored her. Your father has many good qualities, she said to me, but he's not the most stable role model for a young man like yourself. He'd be the first to admit it, Noah. Whenever I get this speech, I listen patiently and don't say a word. She won't come right out and say so, but Mom worries that I'm too much like my dad. Drink your milk, she said, and went to the den to call our lawyer, a man named Mr. Shine. As soon as we were alone, Abby reached over and twisted the hair on my arm. Tell me everything, she said. Not now. I jerked my head toward the doorway. Not with Mom around. Abby said, it's all right. She's on the phone. I shook my head firmly and took a bite of my sandwich. No, are you holding out on me? My sister asked. Finish your lunch, I said. Then we'll go for a ride. Oh, got another break. Dilly dilly. This is to group 6-5. Hope you're enjoying the book as much as I am. Moving on. The Coral Queen had gone down stern first in 12 feet of water. Her hull had settled on the let's try this again. Back up. The Coral Queen had gone down stern first in 12 feet of water. Her hull had settled on the Marley bottom at a slight angle with the bow aiming upward. She was a big one, too. Even at high tide, the top 2 decks were above the waterline. It was like a big, ugly apartment building had fallen out of the sky and landed in the basin. Abby hopped off the handlebars and walked to the water's edge. She planted her hands on her hips and stared at the crime scene. Whoa, she said. He really did it this time. It's bad, I agreed. The Coral Queen was one of those gambling boats where passengers line up to play blackjack and electronic poker and to stuff their faces at the all-you-can-eat buffet. It didn't sound like a ton of fun to me, but the Coral Queen was packed to the rafters every night. There was one major difference between Dusty Muleman's operation and the gambling cruises up in Miami. The Coral Queen didn't actually go anywhere. That's one reason it was so popular. So it just basically just stayed on the shoreline, and people would go in there and spend their money and have their drinks and do their thing. And it never actually went around the lake or the ocean or anything. It just stayed. By Florida law, gambling boats are supposed to travel at least 3 miles offshore, beyond the state boundaries, before anyone is allowed to start betting. It's something like your Indian casinos that we have around here. They have to be on their own reservations to do it. Rough weather is real bad for business because lots of customers get seasick. As soon as they start throwing up, they quit spending money, obviously. According to my father, Dusty Muleman's dream was to open a gambling boat that never left the calm and safety of its harbor. That way the passengers would never get too queasy to party. Only Indian tribes are allowed to run casino operations in Florida. So Dusty somehow persuaded a couple of the rich Mikos, I can't say the guy's name. It's an Indian tribe. Mikosukis. If somebody knows how to say this word, somebody tell me, please. Miccosukkees. Sorry. From Miami, to buy the marina and make it part of the reservation. Dad said the government raised a stink, but later backed off because the Indians had better lawyers. Anyway, Dusty got his gambling boat, and he got rich. My dad had waited until 3 in the morning when the last of the crew was gone to sneak around. He'd untied the ropes and started one of the engines and idled out to the mouth of the basin, where he'd opened the seacocks and cut the hoses and disconnected the bilge pumps and then dived overboard. The Coral Queen had gone down crosswise in the channel, which meant that no other vessels could get in or out of the basin. In other words, Dusty Muleman wasn't the only captain in town who wanted to strangle my dad on Father's Day. Now you have to understand, Father's Day in Florida, what do people usually do in Florida? Exactly. They go on the boats with their fathers. Nobody could get in or out of this little channel because the boat landed this way across the channel. So you can't go in it, you can't get out of it, you're stuck. Anyone over here can't get out into the ocean. Anyone over there couldn't get into the channel. So it's a big cluster. I locked my bike to a buttonwood tree and walked down to the charter docks, Abby trailing behind. 2 small skiffs and a Coast Guard inflatable were nosing around the Coral Queen. We could hear the men in the skiffs talking about what had to be done to float the boat. It was a major project. "He's lost his marbles," Abby muttered. "Who, Dad?" "No way," I said. "Then why did he do it?" "Because Dusty Muleman has been dumping his holding tank into the water." Now, if you go camping like I do, you know a holding tank is where you put all of the nasty waste of your body, let's say, poopy. So what had happened is Dusty is actually opening up the valve, and all the waste is going into the ocean. Father knows this, so he thought, I'm going to sink the boat because he's doing something wrong to the environment. That's why he was doing it. Abby grimaced. "Yuck, from the toilets?" "Yup, in the middle of the night when there's nobody around." "That is so gross and totally illegal," I said. "He only does it to save money." According to my father, Dusty Muleman was such a pathetic cheapskate that he wouldn't pay to have the Coral Queen sewage hauled away. Instead, his crew had standing orders to flush the waste into the basin, which was already murky. The tide later carried most of the filth out to the open water. "But why didn't Dad just call the Coast Guard?" my sister asked. "Wouldn't that have been the grown-up thing to do?" He told me he tried. He said he called everybody he could think of, but they could never catch Dusty in the act. I said, "Dad thinks somebody's tipping them off." "Oh, please," Abby groaned. Now she was starting to annoy me. "When the wind and the current are right, the poop from the gambling boat floats out on the basement and down the shoreline," I said, "straight to Thunder Beach." Abby made a pukey face. "Oh, ugh. So that's why they close the park sometimes? You know how many kids go swimming there? What Dusty's doing can make you real sick at both ends, if you know what he means. Hospital sick, Dad says. So it's not only disgusting, it's dangerous." "Yeah, but I didn't say it was right, Abby, what Dad did. I'm only telling you why." My father hadn't even tried to get away. After swimming back to the dock, He'd sat down in a folding chair, opened a can of root beer, and watched the Coral Queen go down. He was still there at dawn sleeping when the police arrived. So what now? Abby asked. A dark bluish slick surrounded the boat, and the men in the Coast Guard inflatable were laying out yellow floating bumpers to keep the oil and grease from spreading. By singing the Coral Queen, my father himself had managed to make quite a mess. I said, Dad asked me to help him. Abby made a face. Help him what? Break out of jail? Get serious. I knew she wasn't going to like it. Then what, Noah? Tell me. He wants me to help him nail Dusty Muleman, I said. A long silence followed, so I figured Abby was thinking of something snarky to say, but it turned out she wasn't. I didn't give Dad an answer yet, I said. I already know your answer, Abby said. His heart's in the right place, Abby. It really is. It's not his heart I'm worried about. It's his brain, she said. You better be careful, Noah. Are you going to tell Mom? I haven't decided. She gave me a sideways look that told me she probably wouldn't. Like I said, my sister's all right. Okay, my friends, that was the end of chapter 1. So yay. I hope you're enjoying it so far. I absolutely love the book. So we have some major characters. We have Noah, who is the son. We have Abby, who is the sister, and she is a pistol, isn't she? I love her. Dusty Muleman, we'll meet him later, but he's the owner of the boat. You have the mother, which she seems all together. We have a new lawyer named Mr. Shine, which is taking care of Dad in the past. And I think those are all the characters right now. So what I need you to do is you're going to take your papers, or just a paper, it doesn't matter, and just give me a quick, either a chapter review of chapter 1, or tell me some thoughts. Maybe you have some questions. You want to write those down. Either way, this is what's taking the place of your quick writes that you wrote 3 every week. Remember those on the board? After 3 chapters, I'm going to collect them. I'm going to grade you for writing. So I'm looking for capitals, periods, all that good stuff. Okay? All right, my friends. Until the next time we meet again, one more shout out. Let's go for group number 6-1. Dilly dilly to you all, and may you have a beautiful day. Enjoy. Miss you all. Till next time. Bye, guys.